Question is the bill be now read the second time. The honourable member for Nelson.
Thank you, Mr President. I rise to make a relatively short contribution on this bill that I'm delighted to see come to the Parliament. It's certainly an important recommendation from the Commission of Inquiry that we establish a commission for children and young people that has more breadth, more heft to it, more independence to it, and a range of roles that are expanded and strengthened. And I think that's a really positive thing when it comes to the rights of children in this state and the safety of children in this state and advocacy on behalf of children in this state. So I'm very pleased to see this bill, and hopefully the establishment then of the new commission model that it gives effect to. It's also worth absolutely congratulating the government and the department on the process that's been undertaken on this bill. I think we're up to version 21 or something like that of this bill. That's because there has been extended and ongoing iterations of consultation from the relevant current statutory agencies that exist in this space, with the community sector, with the broader community, and with others who have an interest in this topic and what this bill is giving effect to. And that consultation hasn't been a tick box exercise in consultation, Mr President, I'm really pleased to say. It has actually been about co-design. And now that's a term that's bandied about by this government far too readily in lots of different areas, and it's rarely actually true that that's what's occurring, a genuine consultation and co-design. But in this case, with this bill, from the descriptions that we've had of the consultation and what we can see in terms of a gradual evolution towards the version of the bill that we have here to be considered in the Parliament, it does look like a very thorough and genuine process. And I absolutely acknowledge that and note it and wholeheartedly congratulate the government and the department on that. Credit where credit's due, Mr President. It's a good example that I hope will be learnt from, particularly because it does make things much easier as a bill comes through this place when that sort of effort has gone into a consultation process and a genuine co-design process. What we end up with here in Parliament is something that we, in our roles here, can have so much more faith in and confidence in being the right bill to be considering and supporting potentially as it goes through. In my mind, Mr President, an ideal situation would be if we virtually never had to think about amending things in this place or even potentially saying no to things in this place because we don't have confidence in it or that we feel that it hasn't been developed in an appropriately consultative way or considered way. And so it's incredibly nice to not be in that situation with this bill. This is a more of a whole of government approach. I think to this consultation it's reached out across departments and also into the community. I'm really pleased that we can probably feel sure that there is very overwhelming support for this bill from within, across government and from the community. I note that the new commission that it establishes goes from our model of one Commissioner for Children and Young People to having three roles distinctly: a Commissioner for Children and Young People, an Aboriginal Commissioner for Children and Young People, and the Child Advocate role brought into the Commission. And that's incredibly positive. The Child Advocate, which was created, I think my memory is going to fail me, I was in the community sector when it happened, it was maybe 2016, I'm thinking, or 17, something around then. And it was always, to my mind, wrongly situated. It was within the department. And this is an individual advocacy role, a role to support individual advocacy for children and young people, particularly in state care and in state systems. And to my mind, that should always have been a distinctly independent role, situated outside of the department and in a way that could be identifiably and practically very distinct from government and from the department that also housed the services in which the children that would be advocated with and for were placed. So I think it's a really positive move to be taking that child advocate role from within the department and putting it into this commission. It's incredibly good. It belongs there. The other thing that I'm incredibly pleased to see now come to fruition, and again, it's a conversation that's been had in this state for a very long time, and that's the fact that the commission formed under this bill will be able to set up via the Commissioner for Children and Young People and the Child Advocate, I think, and the Aboriginal Commissioner as well, I think all the roles, correct me if I'm wrong, Leader of Government, in the summing up, there'll be visitors schemes put in place and independent visitor schemes. That's going to be really important. A very long time ago, there was an independent visitor scheme under a previous Commissioner for Children and Young People, probably about 4 or 5 commissioners for children and young people ago. There was it might have even been a pilot scheme for visitors that would be connected into children in out-of-home care. And potentially in the youth justice system. And these volunteer visitors would be then having regular points of contact that were outside of the system and outside of the department as a way of some oversight and a way for children to be able to raise issues, and they're basically for there to be another trusted adult that children in our systems could turn to if they needed to. That pilot didn't endure. It was brought to a close and nothing was put in its place. And again, I remember from before my time in this place, from within the community services sector, we would be having conversations and advocating for the reinstatement of such a system, recognising how important it is for children to have trusted adults to go to, particularly if they are within institutional settings and in systems that the government run, knowing that it's not necessarily that we can assume that they're safe in those systems, and that the people who are tasked with or responsible for their care will always be doing the right thing, and children need to have someone who they can turn to. So an official visitor scheme in that sense can be a really important avenue for that. So the fact that that's to come about under this model, I think, is incredibly positive and important. I do think the more distinct independence of this new commission, it's being taken again out of the department and put as a very separate statutory entity managing its own finances and staff directly. It's going to be its own state service agency. The commissioner will be the head of that agency. So I think that's, in a way, elevates it beyond how it has been previously configured within the department. So that's positive. The other thing I'd like to just point to and celebrate, Mr. President, is the fact that the principles outlined in this bill now include, very positively, explicit acknowledgement of rights and principles specified in United Nations Convention on the Right of the Child, the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It's really important, I think, to explicitly embed rights in every piece of legislation where that is relevant, Mr. President. We've been doing that now for a while. It's really pleasing to see. We know our Education Act has now got a rights basis to it. Our Homes Tasmania Act explicitly states that housing is a human right. We've put rights, explicit rights references into the recent Disability Safeguarding Act that we put through, in fact, into the title, Rights and Safeguarding Act. And now here in this Act, an explicit reference to rights. We are making our steady way, Mr. President, down the path to a Tasmanian Human Rights Act. Absolutely, mark my words, that's where we're headed. And it will be a day to celebrate when we catch up with some other jurisdictions who are already fortunate enough to have such an instrument in their jurisdiction. We will have a Tasmanian Human Rights Act, and that will be to all of our benefits, actually, and it will be a real celebration of our state, I think, maturing into its recognition of rights, and therefore the place then, whenever we are making policy or legislation or funding decisions or whatever it might be, that we have an explicit statement of human rights that we need to be measuring against and checking for compliance with. So that's great to see in this legislation, Mr. President. Now I'm just going to flick through to make sure there weren't some other things I wanted to point to before I resume my seat. there were the things I really just wanted to pick out some aspects of this and not exhaustively go through every part of it. Because it's a pretty complex bill, and I know we'll take a bit of time as we go through it, no doubt, in committee stage. There might be specific things to dig down into. Of course, the oversight is always important, and the bill establishing a committee of this parliament to fulfil that oversight role to some measure is a positive one. I support that. The Joint Standing Committee will be to review the functions, powers and operations of the Commission and each Commissioner, and also the fact that that committee will be tasked with a formal review at the 3rd anniversary of the commencement of the relevant provision. That's going to be, I think, a positive, fairly near future time for us to assess how well this new model's doing. And then, of course, there's a statutory review also, which is to occur in the 5-year period after commencement. So I think knowing that we can look ahead to those two opportunities for review of aspects of this helps us also to have confidence that we can put this in place. We can know that it will take a little while to settle in, and especially because we know from the Leader's second reading speech that one aspect of this is while we're bringing two roles together, our current Commissioner for Children and Young People role together with the independent regulator role, that may not happen until 2029 and the current independent regulator contract comes to an end. So we'll need a little bit more time really to have that 5-year review once those are definitely together in the one spot, hopefully. So, Mr President, that's mostly what I want to say. I will look to, if this passes and then we have a conversation about setting up that committee, it's one that I would certainly consider, although I'm not sure I'll put my hand up for it, but it's one that would be a very interesting one to be on, to be able to be overseeing and looking at the development of the new Commission as it goes forward. I'm supportive of the bill in relation to the committee as it is now at this time. No doubt we may have a conversation about proposed amendments, but I'm not going to delve into that argument and that conversation during my second reading speech. That will come, if it comes, during committee stage. But just broadly speaking, I'm in favour of the clause as it's stated currently in the bill. So thank you to the government for bringing this and for the manner in which it's been developed and brought to this place. I'm very excited to see what this new Commission will be able to deliver in terms of a bulwark for young people and children in this state, in terms of their rights, in terms of advocacy and in terms of oversight, in a very independent way and a very rights-based way on behalf of our state. Thanks, Mr President. I note the bill and I'm very supportive of it.
Question, is the bill be now read the second time?